Hey there, welcome to this tutorial about HitFilm. We're going to be learning how to use HitFilm and how to edit a piece with it. The first thing to find out is how to get to HitFilm. Very easy, just come down here, type in HIT. HitFilm should pop right up and you can click it and it loads for you. Sometimes it's going to give you this error. Your available screen resolution is smaller than the minimum requirements for this application. There are two ways to solve this. You can press OK. HitFilm will just load. If you want to just use HitFilm the way HitFilm is, naturally, you can use HitFilm. It's pretty simple. It's just going to look a little bit weird. Everything just looks a little bit too big, but everything works just fine. So if you're going to use it like this, there's absolutely no problem with it. The other option that you have is, and let me exit HitFilm and I'll come right back to it. If you right click out here and you click display settings. So right now you'll notice that my display, change the size of text apps is at 150%. It says recommended there. You can do that. But if I change it to 100%, things are going to look smaller here. And actually, it feels like I have a lot more room to my screen, right? So if I do that and then load up HitFilm, you'll notice that, excuse me, it no longer gives me that warning at the beginning. Instead, it just pops right into HitFilm, and you'll see that it looks a little bit better, right? It looks like there's actually more room on the screen, which is kind of nice. So you can use HitFilm either way. For this right now, I am going to use the 100% version, which allows me a little more space on mine, which is kind of what I want right now. So when I open up HitFilm, you're going to see a bunch of different stuff on here, right? Over here you have trimmer. Here's a viewer and then export as well. Down here is your editor with video tracks and audio tracks. And then over here is library, media, effects, control, history, text, all sorts of stuff, right? So you've got a lot going on here at first, right? So let's take a look. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and import something into here. So what I can do is I can hit this import button here. And then I can find something that I want. So I'm going to take this file and just double click it. When I double click it, it drops it into my media library. So here I have this, which is a video, an MP4 file. So I'm going to take this video, I'm going to drop it over here. You notice that it goes into my video and audio portions because it's a video with sound. And then when I drop it into here, and I can press the play button. Here we go.
Right
you
here.
can kind of just see what this is, right? Cool, interesting. You can scrub through using this up here, and as you can see, you can scrub through this whole clip. This clip is pretty long. If you're finding that you want this part to be bigger, you can pull this down. If you want this part to be bigger, you can pull this up. Either way is perfectly fine. It's just the difference of what you prefer. And even while you are, editing, you can pull things down or pull things up. It doesn't really matter, okay? So notice that we have picture and sound here. If I wanted, I'm going to import just a picture. Notice it might give you a little error, or not even an error, but just like a little question box. It says, some of the files you import are just images. Do you want to import them as videos or just images? I'm just going to import the images. And here I have this image of a cloud, which I drew. Now notice if I drag this over here, it doesn't grab video and audio. It just grabs video because it's just a picture. There's no audio to go along with it, right? So even though I have audio here, I don't have audio here, okay? So picture and sound versus just picture. All right, let's say I dropped my picture a little over here, right? And I wanted to shore this up. Well, I could kind of guess, and you'll notice that it kind of clicks to it. But there's an easier way to put things together in here. And that's right-clicking this empty space and then saying ripple delete gap. Boom. What that does is automatically slams two things together if you have a gap between those two things. So it's usually the best way to go. All right. So I have this huge clip here, and notice I can also pull it this way. I have this huge clip here, and I don't want all of this clip. You'll notice that the first part of this clip is just people getting the camera ready, right? I don't want this part of people getting the camera ready. I just want the part when it's all zoomed out and they're doing goofy stuff here, right? This is what I'm looking for. So I want to start it when he flops on the ground right here, okay? Pretty cool. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it right at the beginning of that section, right at the beginning of when he flops on the ground. And if I right click, you notice that there's a button that says slice, Control-Shift-D, boom. If I click Control-Shift-D, or I click that little slice button, what it does is splits it into two parts. I had my video before and my video after. And if I want to, I don't want this video before, right? So I can right-click it, and I can say Ripple Delete Clip. You'll remember previously we had Ripple Delete Gap. What that did was slam the two parts together if there was a gap. Ripple Delete Clip does the same thing, except it deletes a whole clip. Boom. If I do that, it automatically slammed this back to the beginning. Now, the very first thing I see is him flopping down, right? So that's my very first thing now, which is fine. Let's say I wanted to stop it right when he grabs him in a headlock here, okay? Again, I could slice it, Control-Shift-D, and then Ripple Delete this whole clip. Boom, and then there's my cloud. Okay, that's the next thing it shows. So, excuse me, splitting the clip and Ripple deleting it, super, super important, right? So, we have our clips here. On my little, band, I can zoom in and out. If I want to do like really close editing, I could hold Control and zoom out by scrolling out on my scrolly wheel on my mouse, or hold Control and zoom in by scrolling in on the scrolly wheel on my mouse. It's pretty intuitive. You'll get the hang of it pretty fast. Scrolling out, hold Control and scroll down, zoom in, hold Control and scroll upward. Okay. So let's layer some video here. You'll notice that I have this, and then I have my cloud here, right? Let's say I wanted my cloud to go over this, as if it were part of a weather report. Well, that's pretty easy to do. You'll notice that you can click and drag it up several layers. If I drop it right here, what I've done is created a second video track, video 2. And now you see I have video 1, which is this thing, and video 2. Now video 2 is actually layered on top of video 1, but it's not actually going to show video 1 because video 2 is so big. But if I click video 2 up here, you notice that I can just click and size things down, okay? If I size it down, I can click and drag it around the screen. Now guess what? If I press play, boom, I have this thing in the corner here. It's perfect, exactly where I want it to be, and then it disappears after I'm done with it, right? You'll notice that you can like stretch it or like wiggle it or whatever, but if you hold shift while you're resizing it, you will not be able to stretch it. So if you don't want to stretch it, if you want it to always stay in the same proportions, hold shift as you reproportion it, and it will always stay there. If I take off shift, now I'm able to goof it up, right? That might not be what you want. So always try to hold shift when you resize things. Okay, so we have multiple video tracks. We can also have multiple audio tracks. Let's say I have this audio from people talking, but I also want something else. I want a song as well. So what I've done is I've dropped a song into my library here simply by, again, importing it. And then if I click and, whoops, I'll have to insert a track, right-click, insert track, and notice it added something called audio 2. Now I can click and drag my audio in here, and then not only do I have my first audio, but I have this audio as well.
Are you ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
Right? So if I want, audio works the same way that video does. If I hit Control-Shift-D here, I can split it. I can ripple delete that part. I can delete the end of it if I want. And another thing I can do is, let's say I don't want this audio anymore for whatever reason. I could delete this audio. But notice something. Here's something. If I click on the audio and press delete on my keyboard, ooh, it deleted both the audio and the video. Here's why. Do you see this little chain link here? That's saying that the audio is linked to the video. I can't delete one without deleting the other. So what I could do is I could right-click it, and then what I can do is I can click unlink. That unlinks them. Now I can just click on the audio and press delete. The audio is gone.
Aye, aye, Captain!
But the video remains. Okay? Very, very useful. You can add as many audio tracks as you want if you want to add sound effects or whatever the case may be. So you've got a lot of different options there. So here's the deal. Sometimes when you drop a clip into here, it is not going to work perfectly. And, sometimes that's just the case. For example, let's just say I tried to import this clip in here. Okay, when I try to load it in, it says load error. The reason is it's because it's an MOV file. Lots of files that we get off of the cameras are going to be MOV files. Sometimes that just happens and they don't load correctly into this program. So what do we do? What's the next step? Well, you have a program on your computer called Leapic. It's Leapic, Leapic Media Converter. When you click it, it's going to pop up and, well, it's not going to have all these in there. It's going to look like this, okay? Very simple, just like weird tool here. What this tool does is it converts MOV files to files that the computer or HitFilm can actually use. So here's how you do that. You can simply bring up the file that you want to convert and drag it over to Leapic. And if you have multiple files, you can click and drag on all of them, drag them over to Leapic, right? And then once you're in Leapic, you can highlight the ones you want and press Convert. It'll say, what do you want to convert them to? MP4 is perfect. Video size, quality, audio, automatic, normal is fine. But then destination, you need to tell them where you want those final products to go. So I'm going to put them in Google Drive, My Drive, APN. I created a folder called Test here, right? I'm going to press OK. And that's where it's going to put them. You always need to give it an output folder, a destination folder, so it knows where to put those things when it's done with them, right? After you're done with that, hit OK, and you'll see that it starts to convert it, gives you a quick progress bar, and then it'll be done and in the place you want it to be. Cool. So now we have stuff in HitFilm, we have media, and we're ready to throw some stuff into our timeline, which we've already been doing, right? So when you throw stuff into the timeline, we talked about unlinking them. That's one thing you can do. But you notice a whole host of things you can do right here under Effects. This effects box is absolutely wild. It has a ton of effects that you can use for all sorts of things in HitFilm, right? In the video editing. So you can distort it, right? Let's say you want to bulge it, right? So you can double click bulge, and what that does is it kind of adds this thing over to controls. So you see we have effects and controls, right? Right now it's saying that the effect we're using is called bulge. So we can change where the bulge is. So if we wanted it right there, that's where our bulge could be, right? We could increase the size of the bulge. We could increase the radius of the bulge, right? So a lot of different options there. If you decide that you do not want the bulge to actually happen anymore, all you have to do is uncheck it. Boom. And it's gone, okay? If you decide you want to add a different effect, you can just click and drag it over here. And then boom, it's on control. Here we go, heat distortion. I don't even know what this one is. Oh, it's like warping it as if it's like, you know, been sitting in the sun for too long. Turn that one off there, right? And you can open and close these with little maps and menus. There are so many on here. You can make this so cool. If you took the time to, you know, flip through these and, you know, find something that's fun. Here we can, change it to film grain. Let's see what film grain looks like. Oh, okay. So as we play this one,
it is okay.
It's going to have a little film grain on it. I like that, okay? I like it a lot. So, lots of interesting stuff. Yeah, it's got that cool, like, VHS hiss to it. Very cool. I like that a lot. Ooh, this kind of looks like a horror movie right now. Kind of freaking me out a little bit. Let's undo film grain. Okay, love it. All right, so these effects are things you can do. Now, notice that, you know, this is where we're going to put all sorts of stuff under these effects, right? So, for example, if I'm looking for how to do a green screen, I'm going to go over to this green screen clip here. So, if I go over to this clip, you can see that I have like a green clip here. So, how do I apply a green screen to it? We'll come over to Effects. I'm going to search in Effects for the word green, and you'll see that this one comes up that says Green Screen Key. If I click and drag that over, guess what? Boom! It automatically applies a green screen key to this, okay? Which means that it keys out the background. Now, you might have to do a little bit of editing on this, right? If it comes down to it. Like, you can change the min and max on this, and you can figure out what that does for you, change the gamma value, etc., etc. Like, there are a ton of different options that you can choose that can affect your green screen, okay? The matte, the feathering, the choking, all sorts of weird stuff on here. You can go ahead and figure them out as you move forward. You're more than welcome to kind of play with them. And some of them, when you play with them, I think you're going to find that they are, you know, pretty wild. They can do some pretty wild stuff. Here I'm making this person almost disappear. Oh, they're just just like fading into the background a little bit. Very freaky. I like that. Again, more horror movie stuff. We're getting into a lot of the horror movie stuff today. But very cool stuff that you can do with this green screening tool. Okay. You'll notice there's a poster on the wall in this room that says -10 dB. That stands for -10 decibels. Well, what does that mean? Well, take a look at these meters over here. See these meters, right? These meters go from 6 to -90, +6 to -90. So -10 would be somewhere around here, in between the 6 and the 12. And if I play this random clip here, let's play the green screen clip.
Hello, J.A. Our first dance of the year will be Friday.
You can see that it hits about -6, which is just a little loud. We always want it to hit -10. So here's how we control the volume of a clip. Do you see this little white line in the middle of the volume section here? If you drag that down just a little bit, what you're doing is reducing the level of the clip.
Hello, J.A. Our first dance of the year will be Friday.
Now we're hitting about -12. That's pretty good. We can bring it up a little bit
February
if we want.
10th.
There it is.
From 7 to 9 p.m.
That's almost perfect, okay? So we're hitting that perfect -10 decibels. Every single clip that we put in our newscast should be at -10 decibels, right? All right, let's say that we had something on here that we wanted to... Oh, by the way, green screen. When you're doing green screen, of course, you made the screen black, but how do you put something in back of it? Well, that's pretty easy. All you have to do is come here, take a picture. So let's take a picture, drag it into your... drag it into your media. Great. And then drag the media below that on here. Do you see what I mean? So I had to drag my green screen up a level, but once we drag our green screen up a level, we can put stuff in the background of that, okay? We can't put it over the green screen because then it just appears over it. We have to put it under the green screen, okay? If that doesn't make sense, we'll have a more proper green screen tutorial later, but it's pretty simple. Let's say we want text on here as well. We want to introduce this anchor, right? So how do we add text? Pretty simple. Under this new clip button here, you can click text, and then boom. It just adds in a thing up here that says text. Well, what do we do from there? So it brought up this little box called text. What do we do from here? Well, notice that there's also now a little blinking cursor up here on the screen. I can type whatever I want to type. So Alder Pioneer Network. Whoops. I had caps lock on for a second. I hit it with my pinky. Network. Cool. Okay, you see that it appears small on the screen. Notice there's a whole text tab here. You can change how big you want it. So let's change it to, I don't know, size 100 to kind of bump that up there. And you'll have to highlight the text you want in order to bump it up. So I'm highlighting all that. Let's bump it up to 100. That looks good. You could change the font, of course, to whatever kind of font you want. And that's going to be something that you're going to have to kind of, look around for. Change all sorts of options on here. Spacing of the letters, the width of the letters. You can make the letters wider or smaller. But remember, you have to highlight what you want before you do anything. So now if I increase this, you'll see the letters are more spaced out. You'll see that the letters are wider as well. You can change all of that stuff, okay? Change the color of the font right here. Give it a different font there. Give it an outline if you'd like. You've got plenty of options, all of them available to you in that text tool, okay? As far as moving the text around the screen once it's on there, you can simply click this mouse tool and then, just click and drag it as you see fit. Okay, speeding up and slowing down clips. You want to speed them up? Very simple. You simply right-click that clip there, and then you can click speed duration. When you click that, you can change the speed of the clip. So if you wanted something really fast to happen, click OK.
Hello, J.A. Our first dance of the year.
It pitches people's voice up as well, which is kind of interesting. If you want a transition in between two clips, let's say we want this clip of the sky to transition into this clip of this woman here, right? So under effects, you're going to see, if we delete this green, transitions for video right here. So There's a bunch. There's a bunch of dissolve ones, fade to color, iris, motion, wipe, zoom. Let's take a wipe one. Let's do a clock wipe. All you have to do is drag it in between two clips. Boom. And what it does?
Hello, J.A.
Difficult to see while I'm also filming it. But what it did was it created a transition in between those two clips. Pretty simple. There's not a whole lot to it. But you can change a lot of it under, again, controls. How much blur there is. If you want it to happen in reverse, what do you want the angle of it to be? All sorts of different questions about this. Okay? Make sure you're saving every so often. Hitting File, Save. The first time you hit File Save, it's going to ask you where you want to save it. Presumably, you'll save it into your Google Drive, My Drive, APN, and then save it into your editor folder or News of the World or Joke of the Day or whatever. Give it a name like Joke of the Day that you will definitely recognize next time. I might even tag it with the date. Today is, this is going to date this video, 1/17/23, right? So you can kind of give it some understanding so that you know what it is and where it is, right? However, when you're all done with everything, super simple process to export your final video. Up here at the top, you see Export, and then it says To File. You do that, it asks you where you want to save it. You tell it where you want to save it, My Drive, APN. I'm going to call it whatever, so I'm going to call it Joke of the Day 1/17/23, and press Save. When you do that, it comes up with this progress bar, and basically it's just kind of telling you how long it's going to take. It says exports may be watermarked. You do want to continue. You can press continue. And when you press continue, it just starts your thing. Tells you how much time has elapsed. And usually it'll have a little progress bar here that tells you how long you have to go. That's basically about it as far as getting things together with HitFilm. It's a pretty simple program. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, that's it.